Good evening, everybody. I'm calling to order, I really am calling to order the meeting of council that we have convened for the purpose of dealing, that we have convened for the purpose of dealing with the projects for the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, Community, Culture, and Recreation Stream. And we have delegations, and we will poll the audience if there are any other volunteers to share information with council. And I believe and hope that I can turn to our Chief Administrative Officer, Mr. Ray Green, for staff input here.
Well, like all good administrators, I'm going to pass the microphone over to Nancy, who's put the report together. It certainly had input from all of EMT and coming out of your meeting 2 weeks ago. I think we've got a program that covers quite a breadth of culture and recreational areas, and I believe it's a great program that we're putting forward, so I'll turn it over to Nancy.
Ms. Sully, council looks forward to your presentation.
Through you, Mayor Burton, I only have a couple of slides. Just wanted to remind everyone of the criteria that we use to evaluate the projects. At the workshop on October 16th, there were a number of projects put forward for consideration from delegations, some from council, as well as ones that we had in our capital budget. So we looked at those projects based on a demonstrated need for the service, a community need or service gap. So one of the things we have to ensure is that it's not only a gap we feel there is in the community, but that we can actually demonstrate that the community feels the same way. A demonstrated financial capacity to manage the ongoing operating costs without creating additional cost pressures. So with that, and I'm not sure if can you hear me okay? Is it working? Okay, sorry. With that, there are some projects we're recommending that will have an operating impact on the town, but we've been very careful to only recommend projects that were already considered in our capital forecast, so we already knew that those pressures were going to be coming on us. We didn't want to add to that as we go forward. Demonstrated project readiness, availability of cost-shared funding, so in cases where we would be partnering with someone, their ability to provide their share of the funding, and demonstrated organizational capacity to implement the projects. So that goes from the town side to ensure that we have the resources in place to implement that project, that it's ready to go, and in a partnership situation that the partners are ready as well. And an operational plan developed and aligned with our asset management plans. So one of the key considerations that the province has sort of reiterated in every one of their presentations is you have to make sure you have an operation plan, that you can manage the ongoing costs, and that you are providing for that asset renewal as you go forward. So all of the projects we're recommending, we have taken that into consideration.
Ms. Sully, would you be kind enough on that list to identify which ones descend from the province and the federal government? Because otherwise it might appear that these are, except for the last one, which you did mention, it's a provincial. You know, I don't want people to think that we invented all of these.
Through you, Mayor Burton, we didn't. So these are really from the criteria the province set. They had technical criteria, 9 technical criteria for outcomes they're looking for, objectives. And these are really from the key ones of what the province put forward. So these are not things that we set for ourselves. We took the provincial criteria and used that to make the recommendations.
Thank you very much.
So we have 6 projects that are being recommended for consideration by council. The first is the North Park Sports Park, South Parcel. That project would be the completion of North Park. That would include consideration of a cricket pitch, so 2 soccer fields with a cricket pitch in the middle. That was one of the delegation's requests. That is something that has been in our capital forecast. The timing of it has been tricky because of cash flows with our development charges, etc. So this is an opportunity to bring that project forward. We did put the project budget in here without the 2 soccer fields that would be required should the soccer project go forward. So this is for the rest of North Park. The second one is Bronte Waterfront Park Splash Pad. That's a project that, through the master plans, there are a number of splash pads recommended. That's a project that's been identified by the community, by our Parks Department, as something that is desirable. There's minimal operating cost with a splash pad. It's felt that that location would be quite favorable. The conversion of the River Oaks shooter pad to a multi-purpose space, that's an opportunity that our Recreation and Culture Department brought forward with having looked at their demand analysis. The shooter pads in River Oaks are underutilized, and this would be an opportunity to repurpose that space, provide much needed space for the community, possible revenue enhancement opportunities going forward. An outdoor ice rink at Memorial Park. An outdoor ice rink was one of the projects put forward by members of council. As staff, we looked at that and looked for an appropriate location, and it was felt Memorial Park would meet that criteria. There is a sports court planned for Memorial Park, already approved in the budget. This would be to have that conversion in the wintertime to artificial ice. Renovating the Oakville Trafalgar High School for gallery space. That was a project staff brought forward, and Matthew Hyland, the director of the galleries, spoke to it at the October 16th meeting. That is an opportunity to take that heritage asset and repurpose it for a gallery space and to partner with the galleries on that. And the final one is the Oakville Soccer Club, a new indoor facility. The soccer club did prepare a business plan. They would like to partner with the town. They would be providing the ongoing operating costs. They would be looking to the town to debt finance over 20 years, their share of the capital component of it. They've done quite a bit of work on their business plan, and so the recommendation is that they would submit that project. We would be a partner in that. So those are the projects, after going through the process, that we would recommend you consider for submission. And I did want to just bring to your attention the report recommendations. There are 4 recommendations on the report on tonight's agenda. We are suggesting that we amend the 4th recommendation regarding the Oakville Galleries, and I have put in red where the changes would be. So what we are suggesting for that recommendation is that the town partner with the Oakville Galleries to submit a proposal for funding to repurpose the Oakville Trafalgar High School into a gallery, and the town contribute up to $3.1 million towards the cost share component of the funding application, dependent on the gallery's fundraising results.
Okay, thank you very much. Council, do you have questions before I go to delegations? I'm going to start down here with Councillor Chisholm and then work our way this way.
Thank you, Worship. Through Nancy, with respect to, and I'm just kind of recollection, with respect to partnership and the funding aspect, is there not a policy with respect to when we get into relationships, has to be secured funds of a percentage-wise with respect before we move forward with any partner with respect to any capitalization of a project?
Through you, Mayor Burton, that policy was amended a few years ago to speak more to the financial sustainability of the organization that is looking to partner with us to ensure that they can meet their obligations. So there isn't a specific requirement of an upfront amount.
Then the question I'm asking is, when we get into these partnerships, and not to move away from the core of tonight, but when we have projects come on board and we're partnering, what happens with the liability issue if a group says we're going to fundraise or we're going to collect money to assist on that and they forfeit? What is our position on that?
Through you, Mayor Burton. So typically, if an organization comes forward to partner, they'll produce a business plan, which we then have vetted, often through our auditors, or through KPMG, our current auditors, to look at that for financial viability. Often a group will bring forward a deposit towards it. So for instance, a soccer club proposal, they're proposing to contribute $300,000 up front, and then we would debt finance the rest of it. But, and so a lot of times they are presenting cash up front, but we're really looking for the viability of that business plan, and can they actually fund their share, the ongoing costs and the debt charges if we were to finance it.
I guess just to rephrase my question, what happens or what if they can't meet the requirements? Is the town liable to fulfill that, or or top up what has been not committed by the organizations?
Depending on how far a project has proceeded, the town would be obligated.
Councillor Giddings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Would it be possible to describe the process where it goes from here? There are a number of items that will recommended to go forward. Will the province look at them individually, as a group? Do they package them? I'm just unsure of where it goes from here.
Through you, Mayor Burton, the application process is quite detailed. We have to submit for each project on its own, and there are several requirements in the submission, but we submit each project, and my understanding is they will be looking at the projects on their merit, as opposed to us providing them with a first, second, third choice.
Councillor Hazletil.
Can you just clarify that we are making submitting an application? We await the decision of the province and the federal government in terms of if we'll get anything, and hopefully we could get up to 75%. But in fact, what we're supporting tonight is that we believe that these are a need and a gap in the community, and that there'd be a benefit, but we're not making a financial commitment to these organizations until such time as we hear what the federal and provincial contribution would be. Have I got that correct?
You do.
Okay. So we're all in that we got to talk to the feds in the province and make this happen. Great.
Mr. Green.
I'd just like to add a little bit more commentary to the question from Councillor Chisholm. In particular, I mean, the largest project here, obviously, is the one with the galleries, which will rely on philanthropic donations and raising of funds. One of the things that we've had discussions with the galleries on, and we'll be working with them, are milestones at very early stages to demonstrate that they have the capacity to get that. That will include monies raised as well as commitments that are firm. And we'll set up a series of milestones. For example, one occurring should the project be approved, this is where we expect you to be once we get into preliminary design. And it will be a series of milestones over about probably an 18 to 24-month period.
Just to follow up, Your Worship, sorry. So when you call milestones, I would probably call decision component junctures where they meet. So, okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Just for clarification. Thank you.
All righty. Shall we move to the other side? We're moving over here. Councillor Adams and then Councillor Sandy.
Okay, thank you very much. I have, I think, 3 questions, one of which has been, I think, partly answered. The first is, I understand the Cricket Club is very interested in taking part in the detailed design of the cricket field and the related space around it. And can staff tell us what the timing would be of their opportunity to take part in that kind of discussion, and how would they get involved in that level of detail?
Through you, Mayor Burton. So we will submit projects based on council's recommendation tonight. The province will consider which ones to submit to the federal government for consideration for funding. We've been told that the decision from the federal government would likely be next summer. We have until 2027, March 2027, to complete the project. So once we got confirmation of the funding approval, there would be time for our Parks Department to work on the design.
Okay, and so the getting into the detailed design will only happen if we get the funding from the provincial and federal governments.
That's correct.
Okay, so I hope everyone heard that. The second question is on the Oakville Soccer Club, the secondary partner project. Can you describe the technical process for the submission and who does what in the submission? Who's the primary submitter? What paperwork has to be done? Is it being done in conjunction, in partnership with them? Are we holding their hands to make sure it's done right and to the best of our ability, that kind of thing?
Through you, Mayor Burton, the soccer club would be the primary submitter, so they would submit, and I do know that Dave Harris has listened to the webinar on how we submit, but we'll work with him, so we would be working side by side. There are some questions we would have to answer on the asset-related questions and that, so we'll do it with him in support of his application.
So both the asset as well as the land?
Yeah.
issues, I presume,
Yes.
would have to come in. And then you'd only go into any kind of detailed discussion around an agreement once you actually are sure that you're getting the funding
That's correct.
from the other levels of government. Okay. The last question I have for you then is, can you go through in a little bit more detail of the timing and what happens after council approves the staff recommendations tonight? In terms of when does it go to the province? When does the province tell us? When does the province send it to the Fed? When do they tell us? That kind of thing? So that the community knows when to start asking?
Through you, Mayor Burton. So after tonight, we will take away the recommendations of council. We have until November the 12th to submit the applications. As I've said, they are quite detailed and will take some time. We will go away and work with whoever we need to get all of the information for submission. We'll ensure that they're submitted by November the 12th. The province at this time has told us to expect a decision from them sometime in the spring of 2020. I think they said March, April. That isn't cast in stone. It could change, but that's sort of the timeline they've given us. That will tell us which projects they're recommending they'll submit to the federal government. So they've evaluated based on their criteria, and then they submit. We've been told that a decision from the federal government would likely come in the summer of 2020. So once we got that information, then we would be looking at moving forward.
And so sometime in the spring of 2020, when the province decides, there may or may not be I'll call it a triaging of the projects to say, of these projects that are listed above us here, these ones are going forward to the feds, these ones are not, and those ones are therefore, for all intents and purposes, dead from a funding process.
That's correct. So we would report back to council on that.
Okay, so we'll get an update report in the spring. Thank you.
Councillor Sanju.
Thank you, Mayor Burton. I'm going to piggyback a little bit off of Councillor Adams's comment or questions. So understanding, or maybe I should just kind of take a step back and just say thank you first. Staff has done an excellent job with this report. It's very, very helpful. And I also want to say thank you very much for the North Park Sports Complex recommendation. Sorry, not complex, sports park recommendation. It's something that would be very, very useful, I think, in Ward 7, and obviously something that many have delegated for, so I appreciate it. Two questions, really. One is, we also heard another Ward 7 recommendation or delegation a few weeks ago about a basketball court potentially at Isaac Park. I understand that that's not one of our recommended projects. I wanted to know if we were able to follow up with the Catholic School Board to see if they are willing to kind of allow that usage at the school close by. If that's an offline discussion, we can go into that. And then just piggybacking off of that, if we aren't able to get that, is there an ability for us to go back to Councillor Adams's design question? Is there ability for us to go back and talk about design with the sports park to even get a half court at North Park?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we need to bring the North Park project forward to council anyway. We would then go out to consultation so we could take a look at that. In terms of, I'm sorry, what was your other question?
Sorry,
I apologize.
I know it's a lot. The Catholic School Board, if they were willing to come back to us and open up that court for local
So we
residents.
have talked to the Catholic School Board, and their intent was to reinstate it for the fall. The issue was that there was so much use in the summertime that the residents were complaining about the noise, which I know is an issue for a number of neighborhoods where basketball courts are extremely popular.
Excellent. Thank you, Commissioner Bell. And then just a general question, I think, for both of you. What are we thinking as far as likelihood of approval for projects? Do we know that? Have we heard any indication?
Through you, Mayor Burton, no. We have not heard any indication on what type of projects they'll be looking for. They've given us the criteria. They said that's how they're going to evaluate them. We've tried to choose projects that we think will fit well within that criteria to give us a good chance of success. But no, I don't know.
Excellent, okay. And then last piece is, we talked about the province having their criteria and then giving their decision to the feds. Do the feds then have a veto power to come back?
They have the ultimate decision on whether the project gets approved or not.
Got it, okay. So we want to be clear with our residents, and we want to be clear with everybody that's kind of waiting with bated breath for these different projects, that this is kind of just the first piece that goes into it.
That's correct.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Councillor Knoll?
Thank you, Worship. Echoing Councillor Sandhu's thanks for this report, and I support all of these projects. Really well done on putting this package together. I do have a question, and I guess in following Councillor Sandhu, I need to thank you for the Ward 5 projects, the shooter pad and the Memorial Park ice rink. With respect to the Oakville galleries, I think it's a wonderful opportunity to deal with an important historical and asset in the town once and for all, which is terrific. I do want to ask, though, about the $6 million gap between the local share or the cost share and our contribution. How long would, and it's based on the gallery being able to raise the $6 million, how long would they have to raise that $6 million? I know that substantial completion has to be by 2027, but is there a deadline for the contribution of the cost share funds?
Through you, Mayor Burton, I think it speaks to what CAO Ray Green said. We will be working with the galleries on some milestones and timing of when we would want to see certain levels of the funding in place before we move to the next phase of the project.
I understand that, but does the province, or does the program, or the Fed or the province, do you believe that they have, or do they have now, or will they have criteria as to when, in addition to what our own rules are, when those goalposts have to be achieved, or those goals have to be
They
achieved?
will be looking to ensure that the funding for the project would be there, so they'll be looking at the business plan that gets submitted to them, and they'll be making a determination on whether they feel it would meet their criteria.
So, does it in any way imperil this project by sending it in to the Fed, to the partners, saying that this is contingent on fundraising by the galleries?
Through you, Mayor Burton, I don't believe so. A
Okay.
major project like this often has a fundraising component to it.
Right.
So I don't believe so.
And when the project is being submitted, will that business plan be established by that time to send in with it to demonstrate the milestones, or to illustrate the milestones that we're expecting to show good financial prudence?
Through you, Mayor Burton, yes. So we have been in discussions with Matthew. He is preparing a detailed business plan. He is working on assisting us with the application should you approve it tonight.
Right.
So the expectation is that, yes, we would be submitting a business plan.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
May, Your Worship, just to add a few additional comments. And I know with work that Mr. Hyland had conducted before in terms of bringing on board a philanthropic consultant, he used the word consultant, but I'll use it in this context, that assisted as to what their potential was and what timing. I believe Mr. Hyland will be, now that there's an actual project, one of the issues they had, there was not a defined project. Now we've got a defined project. We'll be looking for him to go out and actually bring back what from, they believe through the community, what those timelines will be. We'll try to ground truth them. I know an individual who has done work with not-for-profits and that, so that we can do a ground truthing of our own. I'll use the word ground truthing. So I think between the two of us, the two organizations, I really have to tell you, this is perhaps one of the most exciting projects in my career to get it started. Unfortunately, I'll maybe just get this one started. I mean, the part that, and I'm going to do a little bit of sales job, if you'll forgive me. But I've had last year I had the privilege of doing a tour in that building with a hazmat suit, breathing equipment and everything else, because it has sat vacant for quite some time with mold and that. And the previous CEO of the hospital, he told us, oh my God, this is such an unsafe building. You don't want to go in there. It's dangerous. The floors are collapsing. I have to tell you, we were in that building, Ms. Closey and I, and Matthew Hyland and his board chair. We were in there for about a half hour, and we realized what it could be. And I knew at some point in time, it would take a program to assist us. And we were looking at somehow Building Canada fund or something with the province. That's what it's going to take to do a project like this. You know, if anybody knows our financial situation, it's probably myself along with the treasurer, of course. And this would be a very difficult project for us to move forward on our own. This will still remain our asset. So, and with the soccer club, it's important that you realize that these are not assets that we're giving to somebody else. Like our other arrangements that we've had with the soccer club, with the gymnastics club and the baseball, they become long-term lessees in that building. So I have to tell you, the bones of that building are just incredible. It looks pretty sad on the outside, but it's got every ability to be a beautiful building again.
Apparently, they built them well in 1905 or 6. Councillor Grant, you're next.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. So we're going through 2 filters on this. And I know it's a wonderful Christmas wish list. It's got everybody excited. I know I'm very happy at the ending of, or the completion of the North Park Sports Park, because that is something that we'd started and handed over well to our Ward 7 people, and they're looking after it now. And reutilizing space over at River Oaks, it's underutilized, great. And who can say no to having a wonderful ice rink outside in the community area that's growing? Wonderful, but we go through 2 filters, we get told at some point, well, no, not this one, not that one. We talked earlier in the budget meeting about, you know, wish lists. If we do come back and find out in the middle of the summer that one of these has dropped, what do you think, looking in your crystal ball, would be the chance that we could try and revitalize one of them for the 2021 budget?
Through you, Mayor Burton, we would have to look, the partnership ones, probably not. The others, we would have to look once we understand our CBC, because of course soft services, all of these would be soft service projects. Not all of these are growth funded. We'd have to look at what we anticipate the revenues to be and look at the timing. They likely wouldn't be in 2021, but we would have to look at where we could place them in the forecast.
So they'd be back in the pipeline, so to speak. Okay, thank you very much.
We could resume saving for them, I think is the plain answer. Yes, all right. So if that's the end of questions, let's go to delegations, shall we? Madam Clerk, would you call the delegations?
The first delegation is Carolyn McMinn, Director of Communications from the Trafalgar Chartwell Residents Association.
Welcome, Ms. McMinn. Council looks forward to your information.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Burton, members of the council and members of the community. As you've just heard, my name is Carolyn McMinn and I am the Communications Director of the Trafalgar Chartwell Residents Association. Also supporting me tonight is George Niblock, who's the President of the Oakville Lakeside Residents Association. We're here tonight, oh, hang on, I'll just start this. I've forgotten to, that's the presentation there, isn't it? And if we just go to, how do I make it into, is that the? To slideshow. Oh, I'm looking at the big screen, not here. From the beginning. All right, here we go. Technology. Okay. So we are here tonight to ask for your support for the proposal to transform the currently derelict, albeit heritage-listed, old Oakville Trafalgar High School into a custom-designed space for artists, exhibitions, classes, and more. I've prepared a few slides in order to illustrate why we believe this proposal will benefit the entire Oakville community and beyond, and why the location is fundamental to the success of this proposal, giving a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to build something significant for the future. We will cover the topics of the goal, the impact, exposure and reach, and why the new location in the old Oakville Trafalgar High School is so fundamental to all this. Okay, so the goal is to develop the old Oakville Trafalgar High School into the Oakville Galleries Museum, and this goal will ensure the longevity of the collection. It will also attract new art through purchases, donations, and exhibitions, with the aim of becoming a world-renowned art gallery and museum, and attract both Oakville residents and then tourists from far and wide. Imagine the impact when the Oakville Gallery's artwork, now in multiple locations, will be housed in one location. Imagine the impact of having a larger, custom-designed space, allowing for more collections to be on display rather than simply in storage. Imagine the ability to have multiple artists exhibiting at the same time, not just one or two artists, and not in disparate locations. They could all be located together. Imagine the impact of being able to have multiple artists in residence each year. That's impacts on the local schools, who obviously have lots of art students, on technical colleges as well, who, like Sheridan College, who have lots of students studying art. And also imagine the impact of being able to preserve an historic building of significance to the wider Oakville community. We have a rare opportunity to do something not only for today, but for the future of Oakville. And truly, residents are sick of seeing a derelict building which has been empty since 1992, which is almost 28 years, which is just slightly older than me. I'm not sure, slightly. I'm not sure how many of you are either graduates of Oakville Trafalgar High School or who actually know a little bit about its history. But it's affectionately known as OT, and was originally called the Oakville High School, and the cornerstone was laid in 1908 in Reynolds Street. It was designed by the architect Alfred Chapman and renamed Oakville Trafalgar High School in the 1940s. The school moved to its present location on Devon Road in 1992. Unfortunately, the old Oakville Trafalgar High School has been derelict since this time. This is a photograph I found on the internet, taken circa 1910 after the landscaping has been done, and we can see it there in all its former glory. These are the photographs I took yesterday afternoon, depicting just really how dilapidated and sad it is now. So I'd like to talk to you about the exposure and reach that turning this into a gallery would actually have. In terms of proximity to the new community centre and being in a centralised location, it will definitely ensure better accessibility and lots of additional visitors of all ages. It will also ensure the expansion of the current community programs with artistic courses on offer, including but not limited to children, family, adult, and the wider community. It will also give a platform for local artists to be able to exhibit, as well as national and internationally recognised artists. In terms of being the new location for the gallery, being in the old Oakville Trafalgar High School, this is absolutely fundamental for several reasons. There's already a 5-storey parking garage on site. It's very easily accessible from the QEW 403. It's right adjacent to bus routes and walking distance from the GO train. And it's also walking distance from Midtown and the downtown Lakeshore Road area, befitting many local businesses. So to sum up, the new gallery, the Oakville Galleries Museum as I've called it, would add the culture piece to Oakville's recreation and culture venues and would benefit the whole of Oakville and beyond. Thank you very much for the opportunity to address you tonight, and if there are any questions, I will endeavour to respond, or I will pass it off to someone who might be able to.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Other questions? Thank you very much, Ms. McGinn. It was a very good presentation. And there's your proof. Madam Clerk?
The next delegation is Dr. Manik Ban, representing the Oakville Cricket Club.
Dr. Ban, welcome. Council looks forward to your information.
All right, perfect. That's great. Perfect, thank you. Okay. Respected councillors and town staff, thank you so much for having us and giving us the opportunity to present to you today. My name is Manik Ban, and I'm here to represent the Oakville Cricket Club. Our club is the home of cricket in Oakville. Our objective today is to have the town work with us to build a new cricket facility at the North Park grounds. The potential of available funding from the ICIP grants allows, serves as a great opportunity, to minimize the financial commitment needed from our municipality. Having listened to the earlier discussion, it is really nice to see, and we are thankful to the town and staff for taking the time to include us in the North Park project, and we look forward to working with you in the future. At this time, I want to just elaborate a little bit on the need for a full-size facility for the Oakville Cricket Club. That is what I prepared, not knowing that we actually had been recommended. So if you bear with me, I'd like to kind of give us a little more feedback, a little more review in this. Here we go. So that is our current temporary location at Glen Ashton Park. I wanted to do a 3D image of that to kind of see what it looks like from the outside, and to look at the different terrains that we're dealing with there. At the first time, the biggest issue there is basically safety for our members of the community, and notwithstanding the players who are playing on the field. There definitely has been a lot of work that the mayor and all the council has done to make this a workable facility for us, and we appreciate all the work that has been done towards it. But at this point, there's still a lot of work to be done. And obviously, looking at some of these safety issues, as you can see, there's a bike path, a walk path within the ground, where people will unknowingly walk through with their dogs and bikes with little kids, and right in the middle of somebody bowling or batting, and we have to shut everything down and wait for them to move through, making sure that we don't injure anybody. There also is a very big ditch, and almost you can see on the, this would be the south side towards the water reservoir, that's about 4 feet deep, right beside the fence, the regional line there. And sometimes I've had myself to take catches going downwards towards the fence. And yes, it's not pretty. And thankfully, somehow we've sort of managed to figure out where that terrain is and still save ourselves. But again, recently we had a new fence being built up there, I think, and that was trying to save our balls to actually make it into the reservoir space. Unfortunately, with the building of those fence posts, there are big concrete slabs now exist right at the base of those, of the base of the fence. And it's actually a lot more scary than it was before, so if that's possible. They're also on the north side there, you will see two trees. Looks like one tree, but there's two big trees there that definitely give us a lot of shade, but unfortunately they happen to be inside the space of the cricket field. And being a batsman myself, I've tried to hit the trees myself many times because we call it a boundary, and then you don't have any issues trying to get out. But having said that, it is definitely comparable to having a baseball field or a soccer field with a nice big tree in between it. It may serve as a good shade, but you wouldn't want to go through another defender trying to score a goal, right? Or try to catch a fly ball. Moving on. So, this obviously, as I mentioned, is, and sorry, I didn't mention the dog park there. We've, not all of us love dogs. We've had a few shots into the dog park, and we have to wait for the dog owners to hang on to their dogs who are thinking of our $100 cricket balls as play toys. And we have to keep playing with that ball for quite a long time. So you can imagine the last 10 years, we've had a few things kind of to work with, and, we worked with it. Moving on, I just want to give a little bit more of elaboration of what we intend and what we have done so far with our community cricket. We have started a junior youth program, and we hope to build on that in the near future with the old ground and the establishment of a new ground. Right now, we're pleased to say there are high schools and grade schools in and around Ward 6 and 7 that are already playing cricket as part of the physical education curriculum. And that's really a great start to these young kids being exposed to the game, and maybe with cricket being such a non-contact, low-injury risk sport, a potential for all people of all multicultural ethnicities playing the sport, and not just being told, well, you got soccer and you got baseball, pick one. It's a summer sport, but hey, look, we got cricket. It's a gentleman's sport, and it definitely has taught me a lot about teamwork and whatnot, playing it for the last 20 years myself, all in Canada, actually. So the other thing I really like is the growth of the sport within the female population as well. That's really seen some leaps and bounds in the past 10 years worldwide, and they've had a Cricket World Cup for women, junior squads, and international squads, and Canada was able to field teams for both categories. And we hope to continue building that here in Oakville at the grassroots level as well. The biggest issue with the junior and youth programs we found with Glen Ashton is we've had a lot of families who've moved into the community who've played cricket in other countries. I had a a young girl at 11 years old come in with her dad, and they looked at our facility and said, well, you have a tree here, and it's not even a full field. And I'm trying to explain to them myself as to the nuances needed to create and start a program where people are coming from really solid facilities and then coming here and noticing that in their backyard, like Ward 6, and noticing that that doesn't exist. We're losing a lot of juniors, unfortunately, to Mississauga Peel region and other regions because of that inability. So hopefully we tend to change that. We also obviously have an adult senior program, 4 teams within the Oakville Cricket Club at this point. We're hoping to start an expansion into another league and for 2020. So this obviously will be an excellent opportunity for the Oakville community to showcase a high-quality facility when and if we build a new place, as it does for hockey, soccer, and all the other sports. So this seems to, I hope, is the current master plan for North Park. I got that off the website. And as you can see in the top, this would be the northwest corner, or the 2 sports fields, the side towards Nagawa, where we have the 2 sports fields that have a cricket pitch in between, I believe. That was the plan. As you can see, that little circle in between. Yeah.
Not Nagawa, the other side.
Yeah, well, what we're trying to propose is a field that would encompass 2 of those fields. And we already have the existing fields on the one side that are all cordoned off. And to have a bona fide cricket-only facility right in the northeast corner northwest corner of the North Park. So the difference here is that we're trying to look at the fact that, speaking to some of those other communities, having a cricket pitch between 2 soccer fields, we're hoping to fill the cricket pitch Monday to Friday nights, 6 to 9, as well as have full games from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday. And we have the potential of doing that. We're about 90% of that right now at the one field, well, actually full at the one field. But with more leagues joining in, we hope to add to that and fully use that field. So that creates a problem, unfortunately, with having scheduling issues with soccer and cricket being on the same facility. So that is a proposal, obviously, for much later down the road, if and when the proposals go through in the near future. This is a little bit of a closer view on the same issue. Now, you can see here we have a full cricket ground pitch, and the most important thing to see here is that we have over 50 meters clearance on all sides, where that definitely will not need more nets or any type of safety hazard for any of the corresponding structures and activities going on in the region. So we also have a hope for a couple of batting cages where people can go in when they're not playing and get the juniors in there playing every evening. You can go in there with your kids and play out there, and so that is something that we'd like to hope and see happen as well. Yeah. The other thing here, I just wanted to use, this is the Elson Park Cricket Ground in Markham, and it looks like a beautiful oval. It's what I would like to envision our park looking like, and you can see that you've got about 60, 65 meters on either side there. There's a splash pad on the side, and that unfortunately is in a close proximity, so they've actually had to build a big netting up in that area. So moving on, I know I only got a few minutes. There's just a few more grounds in the GTA. And what I wanted to just show you here is the fact that these are all cricket-only facilities. And they've done really well, being fully at capacity, and obviously state-of-the-art facilities in the respective municipalities. If you have any questions, I'll be able to answer now.
Thank you very much for the presentation and the advance warning of the overlap between your needs and the soccer club. Are there questions? Councillor Elgar.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation and the way you presented it. It was good. How many cricket players are there right now in Oakville?
So
and what is your projection to where you're going?
Yeah, we started off about a decade ago with 20 players, and now we're looking at paid members, over 100, and we have over 1,000 members, youth and adults just in Ward 7 that are itching to play cricket, and they're trying to find facilities themselves to find a spot, and that's where the schools come in, playing in parking lots and whatnot, just pick up games here and there, which is, obviously not very safe. Ward 6 and Ward 7, we're looking just the two regions themselves. But, I like to definitely allude to this as not just something for a certain area, but an opportunity to build a sport. Right now, I'm quite involved in Oakville Little League, and I like their model of how they started off at the grassroots level, teaching kids at 4, 5, 6 years of age. I coached my sons up through that level. And to see how you can improve at a grassroots level a sport, and just introduce it to kids who have no idea how to hold the ball and hold a bat. I put my kids in baseball because there's no cricket. And I'd love to be able to have them move to that.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for your answers. Councillor Sanju?
Thank you, Mayor Burton. Thank you for your presentation. It was very, very helpful. I just wanted to provide a little bit of clarity to council as well and ensure that this is clear, I think, from everybody's comments earlier from Councillor Adams. We see the need, obviously, and staff has also seen the need, but we want to ensure that the design conversations happen, I think, after that funding allocation. So this would be very, very helpful, I think, later on down the road.
Well, for sure. And,
Yeah.
I came in here not knowing about the fact that it
Absolutely.
was pushed through, so I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
But, obviously, just a taste of what we could potentially make out of that park. So,
That's very helpful. Thank you very much.
okay.
Don't worry, I don't think you talked anybody out of anything yet.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much for your
All
time.
right, I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Madam Clerk, the next delegate.
Next delegation is Matthew Highland, the Director Curator of the Oakville Galleries.
Mr. Highland, welcome. Council looks forward to your information.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of Council. I just wanted to address you again further to last month's meeting and take an opportunity to say thank you for your consideration tonight of the OTHS project on the agenda. You already heard last month about the gallery's tremendous enthusiasm for this project, one we think can be transformational for our community. Tonight, I wanted to reiterate the gallery's commitment to and preparedness for pursuing the fundraising target that was laid out in your staff report. We want to underscore that we have a fundraising framework ready, initial prospects in place, and as I noted last month, in many cases, initial conversations are underway with potential donors. We look forward to further work with town staff to establish a giving and recognition framework and a naming rights schedule that aligns appropriately with the town's existing policy, sponsorship policy. Before we confirm any commitments, it's essential that we know that we're doing that in line with the town's existing priorities. That said, we are currently pursuing letters of interest from a number of donors to include in next week's funding application, should council greenlight a submission on this front. We also wanted to note that since this project was brought forward 3 weeks ago, we've received a number of new expressions of support from the community, both financial and otherwise. So we've been very grateful to hear from OT alumni, heritage buffs, and cultural enthusiasts, amongst others, get in touch to express their enthusiasm for the project. And we believe there's quite a bit more where that came from. In short, we're very much looking forward to and prepared for generating robust support for this project in the months ahead. So we do hope tonight that council will endorse the staff recommendation that the galleries in town work together to submit a funding proposal for this project. And on behalf of the staff and board of the galleries, I want to thank you again for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Highland. Are there questions? Thank you very much. I promise to poll the audience if there are others who have been inspired with information they want to share with council. Yes, please come up. I recognize one. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Marianne Hawthorne. She knows a thing or two about the old Oakville Trafalgar High School.
Thank you, Mayor Burton, members of council. And thank you, Mr. Ray Green. You certainly express our enthusiasm and delight at the prospect of this project. In 1987, when the Halton District School Board decided that this school could not be renovated and should be removed from the downtown core and relocated on Devon Road, it came as a terrible shock to this community. This school had been here, as you know, since 1905, and it was in the center, or we thought, in the center of town. And the graduates from this school are many interesting and many wonderful celebrities from this town, including, of course, our former mayor, Harry Barrett. I attended this high school, as did my family, my sister, Carol, a number of people here tonight, my brother. We loved the school. We loved it in our community, and we made every effort to try to convince the Halton District School Board that taking a school out of a core downtown area was a big mistake. We couldn't convince the school board. There were other issues that the school board was dealing with, which when I became a trustee for Ward 3, I discovered some of these issues, so I knew the difficulties that trustees had with this issue, and one of them was the extended funding for the separate school board at the time. So we were having to give up a few of our facilities, and there were some issues around that. At this particular time, since 1987, we have been looking, in a sense, for a readaptive use. And of course, there was the hospital at one time. When I was a member of Heritage Committee, they came forward with a wonderful proposal to use the school as an administrative facility, but the hospital then, shortly after that, decided to move, and so that project fell through. And since that time, we really haven't had any concrete readaptive uses until now. So we are very, very excited that the galleries have this proposal. You've seen the proposal, and last night at the Oakville Historical Society, where I'm a member, and I made a presentation to the board, there was a unanimous decision by the Oakville Historical Society to support the gallery's proposal. When you look at the building today, you see a derelict, ugly-looking building. As Ray mentioned, that the bones of this building are good, and we remember this building in a different way than it is today. And I've brought you a photograph, or a painting, by one of our local artists, and I would like you to see what this building could look like, because this is, while it's an artistic rendering, even though I've brought some photographs of the original, it is one of the most beautiful buildings in this town. And Chapman and McGiffin were famous architects. And that's why this building, because secondary school education, as you know, at the turn of the century, was akin to university education. So the buildings that were built were very substantial. So I'm going to hold this up. I bought this painting in 1989. Michael Hitchcock was the artist.
So, Mrs. Hawthorne,
Oh,
if you...
can you see it?
The public at home will be able to see it if you turn it around so that you're looking at it,
Okay.
and then if someone can move the mouse away for you,
Yep.
on that space, that desk in front of you, if you lay it flat, there's a camera way up in the ceiling that will pick it up and put it on the screen
Okay.
and broadcast it to the homes, I think.
Okay. Okay, that is the painting, and then these are the actual photographs, so that you won't think there was artistic license, with this particular painting. These are the photographs. This was the school as it was built at the time in 1905 without any landscaping. It was brand new. It states on the photograph the new Oakville High School, as was mentioned earlier. And then this was 20 years later when there was some landscaping and so forth. So you can see that this building would be a landmark for the town and for the gallery. So I just am so excited about this and so happy that the galleries have taken this project on, and I hope that the council would also be very supportive. Thank you very much.
Thank you
If
very
there's any
much,
questions,
Mrs. Hawthorne.
I'd be-
I want to take a second, and we accept your delegation. I just want to take this opportunity to express council, on behalf of council, our thanks to the far-sighted people back in 1992, 30 or more years ago, who fought so hard to get it designated and saved so that we would have this chance to show that we mean what we say in this town about heritage.
Thank you, Mayor Burton. And we believed it would always come around. We have waited so long. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there others with information for council? All right, well, thank you very much. I'll confine it to table, and I'll look to council for the decision. Councillor Giddings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd be happy to move the staff recommendation. As Ms. Hawthorne was saying, they met last night with the Historical Society. Councillor Haslett-Thiel and I have also heard from the RAs, from members of the Oakville Heritage Advisory Committee, from individual residents from across Ward 3 and further. And all of them have expressed the same excitement, not quite as boisterous as you, Marianne, but there are an awful lot of excited people.
Councillor Duddick.
Thank you, Your Worship. I am just ecstatic that this is coming forward. I'm pleased to see somebody that I worked alongside with for Oakville's 150th. And at that time, there was a concerted effort of maybe seizing an opportunity to bring back the Oakville High School to its former glory. And so this to me is such a no-brainer that I cannot express strongly enough how supportive I am of it and how thrilled I am to see that something constructive and productive is going to be happening for that school.
Thank you, Councillor Duddick. Councillor Knoll.
Thank you, Worship. I also want to echo the comments I heard in the other room. As I mentioned earlier, I'm supportive of all these proposals, and I'm particularly excited about the gallery's proposal in light of the important historical significance to this community and the great potential that this project brings to Oakville. So I'm happy to second this proposal and look forward to the vote.
Thank you very much. Councillor Chisholm.
Thank you, Worship. As a graduate of OTHS, as an old OT boy, and knowing as Ray mentioned, the bones of this school, being down, we used to call it the way down below the dungeon, but it was probably where all our memories were as students down at the school. To me, this is a win-win for Oakville and for our residents, and also for our historical heritage designations. And as an old Oakvilleite, I am really excited, and congratulations to all our residents who've had the foresight, Mayor Harry Barrett, the foresight of looking at this as a heritage attribute for the town of Oakville. Knowing full well I only lived a block and a half away from OT, it had a lot of fond memories, and I'm glad we can keep this heritage attribute in our town with the addition, hopefully, if things go, is a gallery. I think it's just wonderful for the town of Oakville. So congratulations to everyone involved.
Thank you. Councillor Elger.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Burton, I'd like to thank the people for coming forward, but I'd also like to thank the residents who sent letters and stopped amalgamation of Oakville into Halton Region. So now I think it's time for all those people to turn their attention onto the heritage of this school and the Glen Abbey Golf Course, so that we get moving on this and get everybody in Oakville to fire off letters to our MPPs. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Elger. Anyone else? Councillor Grant?
It's a hand. I also think this is exciting very much so, but I also want to thank staff for the work and diligence they've put into creating this Christmas wish list of projects, both old and new, that we can celebrate in this community.
Thank you, Councillor Grant. Then, may I put the vote? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Please rise to be recognized if you're voting in favor. That would be Councillor Robertson, Councillor Duddick, Councillor Chisholm, Councillor Giddings, Councillor Haslett-Thiel, Councillor Elgar, Councillor Longo, Councillor Knoll, Councillor Grant, Councillor Adams, Councillor Lischina, Councillor Sanju, and Mayor Burton. I declare the proposition carried unanimously. Thank you, everybody. Bylaw. Oh, Councillor Lischina, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Your Worship. Given that council has passed this, I think it would be appropriate to send a letter from your office to our provincial and federal representatives to let them know of our thoughts.
Thank you for the suggestion. Would you be kind enough to give us a motion for the confirmatory bylaw?
I would.
Thank you. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Longo, thank you. This is the bylaw to just confirm the proceedings of the meeting of council. It's a routine matter. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Thank you, everybody, for your time and attention, your questions and your thoughts. It's been terrific working with you, and we are adjourned.